Hello and welcome to this CNBC Africa special report. My name is Michael Mugisha, and today we're speaking matters invest in Mauritius. What is the country offering currently for investors? How are they going about this? What strategies are in place? All of this today on the CNBC Africa special report. Remember, you can join us on Twitter at CNBC Africa. My personal handle, as always, is Galwera4. And let's jump into this. Thank you so much for creating time to speak to us, Honorable Minister, and thank you so much for creating time to speak to us, sir. Just kindly allow us to get into this conversation. We have seen Mauritius growing to becoming the first place to do business in Africa. How was that done, and how is the country diversifying its economy at this particular moment?
This is done in a simple way by taking good policy decision and adopting a good strategy about where we want to go. And we have had a track record of sustained growth in different sectors. Our economy has transformed from a monocrop culture where we were exporting sugar. Today we have a number of other sectors which are growing, which are developing fast. This makes that our economy is diversified, and we are more and more looking forward to become a leading player in the financial services sector. And it's our ambition, it's government ambition to make Mauritius a robust and growing international financial center in this part of the world, where we can contribute significantly in the development of the African continent and in the interests of our brothers and sisters in Africa.
Monsieur Guibert, what has been the EDB's contribution towards this diversification of Mauritius' economy?
Indeed, we want to diversify, but even before diversifying, we want to accelerate what is working already very well, and it was mentioned by the minister on the sugarcane, on the textile, on the financial services. But then we want to diversify to other sectors of the industry, in transport, in pharmaceutical, in other activities which are mature, energy, but are still good potential of growth. And then we want to innovate in the high-tech area, whatever biotech, fintech, incubators, artificial intelligence, that the whole tech that we want, where we want to innovate, to be sure that indeed we are addressing three major areas of our development: manufacturing, high-tech at large, and also financial services. So three of them make them, let's say, very powerful.
Currently, when we look at the numbers in the financial services industry, of course, one of the most growing part there is the financial technologies, and of course, more conversation and inclusiveness. At this particular moment, Honorable Minister, speak to me. Where do we see Mauritius in terms of inclusive banking, but also the financial technology uptake?
I must say that in terms of inclusive banking, we rank really very high. I know that this is an issue in other countries, particularly in Africa, but precisely where digital banking and what we are aiming at in terms of fintech, where will that help the whole of Africa is to open up to more and more people willing to have a bank account, to do business, to transfer money, to make payments. So I think it's really important that we move quickly with fintech, with the technology-based financial services, so that Africa can benefit from those services. Because if you don't have a bank account today, it's a pity for anyone, and it is clearly a deprival of a key right to bank, right to own your own money. So all these are major issues, but how Mauritius is helping in all these, it's important to understand the concept. Our first thinking line is whoever wants to entrust you money is based on one key element. It is the trust element. So we have been consistent in improving the confidence level, the reputation of Mauritius internationally. And we've been talking about the various rankings that Mauritius has got from World Bank, from the other World Economic Forum, and other institutions like Moody's, Ibrahim. So we have been improving our ecosystem. We have been improving the governance system so that people can trust the system, the Mauritius system, and they can do business with Mauritius. So I think we have been really successful so far, and the work doesn't stop here. We want to go further and be a key partner, key financial partner in Africa, where we believe that there is a need for more and more capital for the development, which will be in the interest of the people.
I understand that, of course, making the financial industry as simple or simplifying the ways of doing business in the country could as well lure even more multinationals to come into Mauritius. But now I want us to look closely to the nationals, to the small and medium enterprises from Mauritius. What kind of incentives are we putting in place to actually bolster economic growth, but also on the back of small and medium enterprises that are already homegrown small and medium enterprises in Mauritius?
In fact, it was a good time, let's say, for me, because we had a seminar on small and medium-sized enterprise just a few days ago in Mauritius, because they are at the core. They are employing 130,000 people. We have there is 1,000 of companies which are at the core of the long-term development and at the root of the development of the industry in Mauritius. We are giving them a lot of support. We are having some companies which can benefit depending on the sector where they operate. We can give them some tax incentive. We can give them some training, let's say, also incentive. We can help them. We have reduced the threshold of creating, let's say, companies from the 100,000 to the 40,000 for foreigners that want to establish companies, small enterprises. We are setting up 4 major incubators that we are also helping by contributing also to their expenses at a level of 50%. And we are really making the full ecosystem of small, medium size, and also able to, and we are opening the door to them, to the big company. In fact, we are trying to make the link between these small incubators, startup, and so on, with the big group to be sure that they benefit. You know, sometimes people have the impression that small companies have competition, let's say, with big group. They could, but they have also a lot of opportunities, because we have seen that so many multinational companies being surrounded by a lot of startups that help them to develop innovative solutions very fast, very efficiently, and very smartly. So most of the big companies today have an area sometimes of 70 to even a few hundred of smaller startups that are bringing them solutions to their development.
Right. Honourable Minister, coming back to you now, we also understand that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is expected to boost intra-African trade by 52% in just about 2 years from now. It's seen some stalling, of course. Ratification right now, we needed about, I think, 22 countries to ratify, and that is pretty much on the table as of current standing. But talk to me more from Mauritius' standpoint. What kind of strategies have you put in place to connect with the rest of Africa in terms of doing business?
Well, our government, led by the Prime Minister, Pravin Jagnnath, has immense hope with Africa, because not only Mauritius forms part of the African Union, but is also a key player in the decision-taking process. So the African continent has a big importance in our strategy, not to say only for financial services, but for any other sector, because if we want to grow our business, if we want to help in the process of development, then we have to look more openly to the African continent. So what we've been doing is, you must be aware that one of the strategy for Mauritius has been to use Mauritius as a platform to connect Africa to Asia. Asia is a booming regional market, and there are lots of products and services which we don't produce in Africa. We can source from Asia, and there are also many products and services which are produced, manufactured in Africa, which can be exported to Asia. So I think Mauritius can be the ideal gateway to link Africa and Asia. And to be able to do that in an efficient manner, I think there are several steps that we need to follow. There is, of course, the political willingness to open up. And I think President Kagame said it well yesterday in his opening address, that we need to look further up, look at the interests of our people, how we can work together to improve the living condition of our people. I know that from time to time we have political barriers. There are deadlocks in terms of discussion. But overall, I think it boils down to one common interest, is the interest of our people. And I think Mauritius can work hand in hand with the other countries in Africa, with our brothers and sisters of Africa, to make a lot of improvement in the living standards, in the quality of living of African people, by not only channeling the necessary capital for its development, but also in terms of providing goods and services, developing infrastructures, bringing technology, bringing expertise. So all these Mauritius can provide to Africa, and we are working on it. We have had a number of bilateral treaties with a number of African countries, which makes trade and business easier.
Right.
And also, we are continuing in that process to consolidate our trading relationship with a number of others in Africa.
I'll also take a quick break right here on this edition of our CNBC Africa Special Report, as we look at some of the opportunities that the Republic of Mauritius is presenting to Africa, but also the world. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to this CNBC Africa Special Report with me, Michael Mugisha, here in Kigali, Rwanda, as we discuss matters investing in Mauritius. We're joined, of course, today by Honorable Dharmendar Sesungkur of the Mauritius Ministry of Financial Services and Good Governance, and we're joined as well by Francois Guibert, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Economic Development Board of Mauritius, today on our show to discuss more on this particular conversation. Allow me to start from here this time, right? Before we took a break, Minister Sesungkur was speaking about President Kagame's speech yesterday, opening for the Africa CEO Forum. And there is something that I picked from that conversation as well, and I want to throw it to you to get your sense of what you made of it. He said that it's about time that we stopped looking at business as usual. about time for African business leaders to think of innovative ways. Speak to me from where you stand. What does this mean and how do we go forward?
I think it was an excellent speech, and it's for me very strategic, because we have, as you say, to change, as he said, to change the mind, and therefore to be sure that we look at the way to operate, for example, in our case, to open the door to key talents, to look at high-tech as a whole, because high-tech will be of strategic importance. Most of the country who has been developing very well has been developing it through the high-tech, and whatever, in biotech, in electronics itself, in fintech, and we have been creating an association of fintech in Mauritius to be sure that with the big banks and the startup, we will be the international also center for fintech for Indian Ocean and Africa. And we have to change also our approach, maybe also on developing financial businesses. There is plenty of innovative way, and all of that required a good education also, and having more and more volume and quality of our education system. So at the core of it, we have to make it having the talent from the world, whatever, from Europe, from Canada, from Australia, from Singapore, and to have, let's say, the ability to train our students to be sure that they get the new mind of what is the best within the world. What is important is to benchmark yourself always with the best, and not, let's say, with the average. So this is a driving force that will make the education system at the top level. And when you have a good education system, you can, and if you have a good financial system, you can really, let's say, become a key player in the world.
Honourable Minister, you mentioned something very interesting there before, of course, about Mauritius' plan to be the channel for Africa doing business with Asia. With the current geopolitical crisis that we're seeing, of course, the US and China war, and of course, in the trade war, of course, and China and in the Indo-China trade, of course. Speak to me. How does this stand to either benefit or hurt African economies?
Well, to start with a more pessimistic scenario, protectionism is not in the interest of anyone. It will hurt everybody, because a contraction of the global economy will affect many people. On the other side, I think it's good news that countries like China, countries like India, and our continent, Africa, we are opening up, and we are willing to partner. We are willing to open up to other countries and trade with each other. So I think it's interesting to promote more and more business and trade among African countries in the first place, and also to open up to other countries where we can source better quality goods, better quality services at affordable prices, which is in the best interest of the people of Africa, in the best interest of the people, in their own best interest. So I think we should promote trade. We have to continue our effort to diversify our markets, continue to work towards more and more economic partners, and make a bigger spectrum of collaboration at the continental level.
Your take on this?
I think it is very important. I believe that some of the economy you mentioned, the one, let's say, we are like US, Europe, and China, and so on, in some way are now at a very high level of development. and in some way are a bit saturating. There is areas that are still going very fast. This is basically ASEAN at a rate of at least 5%, and there is 10 countries here that are really also becoming a real fantastic market, and Africa. And Africa has some countries which are even above 5%. There is country of Africa, not all of them, but some of them between 5 and 8 even percent. So there is a very strong potential of growth within these two major actors. And these players are not really having the same kind of competition and struggle like China, US, or Europe. Therefore, we will capitalize on that to be sure that we are extracting the best from most of this part of Asia and Africa.
Right. So another thing we've seen is that in the case of foreign direct investment for Mauritius, we've seen slip behind. And of course, Singapore taking a lead there when it comes to FDIs from India. What are we supposed to make of this? What needs to be done to see that even more foreign direct investments can come into Mauritius at this time?
Let me first of all correct a perception which may be there because my reading of the statistics of the figures is that Mauritius still remains the second largest investor in India. Of course, we used to be number one, but with the change in the double taxation agreement and bringing back everybody on the same level playing field, it is only natural that Singapore, being 30 times the size of the economy, 30 times the size of Mauritius, we cannot be the number one in India. It can only be a logical, if we apply our logic, we cannot be the number one. But Mauritius still remains the second largest provider of investment into India, right, and still is right now. Of course, we would love to be the number one provider of investment. But this is not the issue. What is more important for us is that Mauritius continues to be a preferred jurisdiction where investors would come and use our platform, our structure, our ecosystem to service India in terms of investment. This is the main issue, the main point for us. And we are not sleeping on our laurels. We are not, of course, happy with this situation, but it is a fact that there is more and more competition worldwide, and we have to adapt ourselves. We have to put ourselves into question, rethink the model, and work out better ways to compete, better ways to improve our business levels. It will not be easy. Mm-hmm. As I said, Singapore has been a major economy in Asia much before Mauritius started its financial center. So we have to somewhere give Caesar his due, where we believe that despite the tough competition, Mauritius still remains a major contributor to the Indian giant economy.
Could those investors that are using Mauritius a platform to invest even more in the Asian market do the same with Africa?
Definitely. I think we are already witnessing a major interest from the part of Africa. I can tell you from personal information that I have that there are major fund providers in Europe and even in the Middle East. They would like to participate in the development of Africa, and they've been discussing with us to set up dedicated funds to help African countries in specific sectors, like in ecological projects, in terms of infrastructural development. So I think Mauritius will continue to play a predominant role in the development of Africa. We are not competitors of Africa. We are complementary, and we are partners. And if Mauritius is successful in growing its financial center, this can only help the African continent, because we can provide more capital for the development of Africa.
And finally, before I let you go, Francois, coming back to you as the Economic Development Board for Mauritius, you also, as a government, have a plan to become the logistics hub for the continent. How strategic is this at a time where we're seeing 54 states moving forward to grow the intra-African trade? How is this timely?
This is an excellent timing. We have indeed increased our infrastructure in the harbor of Port Louis to be sure that we can accommodate bigger and deeper, let's say, tankers for shipping across, let's say, from Asia to Africa. You know, we are in the middle of the line of shipping, let's say, between Asia and Africa. I have seen picture of our island, you know, and the dot from satellite, you know, of different ships. There is 1,000, let's say, at the same time, almost crossing through close to Mauritius.
Thank you so much for getting time to speak to us today, Honorable Minister, and allow us to leave it here. Right, thank you very much for joining CNBC Africa today as we touch base with Marta's investment in Mauritius, and also looking at some of the opportunities that this island country is presenting to the continent, but also presenting to the whole world. My name is Mugisha, and thank you for joining us for this CNBC Africa Special Report. It's bye for now.